You heard me. Now get this. I want you to obey me, not argue with me. You will not talk back to me like this again, ever. Do you understand?
All right, Chepngeno seems to be having issues and we really need to be moving, but I hope she can. Okay, continue.
I'm sorry for that. You heard me. Now get this. I want you to obey me, not argue with me. You will not talk back to me like this again, ever. Do you understand? Right. Pastor Chiamaka stammered, suddenly tamed. Yes, I do. Splendid. So, Pastor Chiamaka, let me say what I was going to say if you'd let me. Pleased by this quick victory, the caller was inching back towards polite speech. What I was going to say is, he stopped. Pastor Chiamaka waited. I was going to say that it's best if I keep on initiating all communication between us. The caller added. Pastor Chiamaka did not respond. Look, you and I are supposed to be working together. We are we are on the same mission. This time Pastor Chiamaka responded. Then why won't you tell me your real name? I won't, because our mission is still at a delicate stage, said the caller. For that reason, you didn't I'd rather for that reason I'd rather you didn't know who I really am yet. Until I tell you otherwise, just call me your guide. Needless to say, I won't let you see my face either, but you will hear my voice. Is there anything else you'd like me to ask? You'd like to ask me? Why should I trust you? Oh, yes. Why should you trust me? Well, go back to the letter from Agda. It's the answer. Quote, quote, faith in him just because he there is to me, Shamaka. That is what answer. Was that all you were going to say to ask? Again, Pastor Chiamaka did not answer. Fine, let's go back to A Omega and Path Alpha then. As I said, Agda wants you to be fully familiar with both documents. Are you, Pastor Chiamaka? Yes, sir. The word sir had slipped out accidentally, but perhaps significantly to show that Pastor Chiamaka had climbed down and accepted a role subordinate to that of the caller. Yes, I am, he added. Then there isn't any more left for me to add. Oh, actually, there is. I was there an hour ago. You were where an hour ago? Pastor Chiamaka demanded. To get right to the point, I saw you in the bar of the Seamount Hotel. Yes, I was there, having a Pepsi. A Pepsi? Is that right? Do you know that do you know what do you know what? Mr. Whoever you are beginning to get on my nerves. Pastor Chiamaka was now thinking the caller might be an invisible executioner, unknowable and unidentifiable. You see, you can see and identify me, but I could walk right past you and not know it. What were you doing there anyway? Spying on me? I think it would be best if you apologized, Pastor Chiamaka.
Sorry for that. So, what we are saying here is both characters are egocentric. They are egocentric. Number two, it is good to notice that if you are told to identify a theme, then you are very right. You will be very right to say there is theme of conflict. And then now you will go ahead and say there is some soft or little conflict between the guide and Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, because Pastor Chineke Chiamaka does not want to give to be given, to be ordered, and this man again is authoritative. So as a character trait again, you can also say that this person is authoritative or dictatorial for that matter. You could even say he's firm. On the other side, you can say Pastor Chineke Chiamaka is curious. Curious just means he just has the urge to know. He wants to know. And it is evident because he asks question. He asks these character questions. Who are you? Why are you? Blah, 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 and all those things. Therefore, it is okay to say that he is curious. So as far as theme is concerned, those are the themes that you can highlight. I still want to insist, by the way, that if you are asked about stylistic devices, the best to score is dialogue. But now you must make sure that you illustrate it properly. And I think that is why some of our teachers were dissuading us from using it. But if you illustrate it properly, it is a dialogue, it is a style, and actually we marked it. I was looking at that marking scheme here physically, and we marked it actually as style number 1. It was the first one that we marked. And then now if you look at page 19, this one actually is a style that is usually picked also. Then that is page 19. Then there isn't any more left for me to add. Oh, actually there is. I was there an hour ago, and then we have ... That kind of a style where somebody is interrupted while they are speaking, it is called the punctuation mark is called ellipsis. Use of ellipsis because we see that somebody is just is cut short as they are speaking. Sometimes it can be given, that style of ellipsis can be shown using a hyphen, where somebody does not finish and instead leaves information unsaid, and then there is a hyphen. I think those are some of the things that you really need to consider. And then obviously you would say that this guide is a character trait. He is strict. And that is why he asks Chineke Chiamaka whether it was Pepsi. Actually, he has a problem with him going to the bar. Therefore, you can say that this character is strict. All right, you may finish, Langat. You may finish, so that now somebody else will start chapter 3. Langat, please read the remaining part. Okay, go ahead.
I thought I finished.
Read page 20.
Okay. You want me to apologize for what? For you spying on me? What business had you being in a bar, Pastor Chiamaka? Pastor Chiamaka felt a lump of anger rise in his throat. Only after he had remembered the injunction to turn the other cheek, to turn the other. Sorry for that. Only he had remembered the injunction to turn the other cheek did he swallow his anger and apologize. All right. I had no business being in the bar, he said. It was a mistake, and I promise I won't do it again. You had better not, said the caller. The lamp threatened to rise again. Goodness me. It was only a soft drink. So you say, good night. Good night now, Pastor. Another mobile phone rang in the Seamount's south wing. Comrade Melusi answered. Yet another rang in the east wing. Professor Kimani took the call. Still another rang in the north wing. Engineer Tahir spoke with the caller. The hour was now 11 p.m.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much. The meaning of injunction, because that is the word we need to know the meaning. Injunction means order. So he remembers the injunction of turning the other cheek. And that is when he decides to obey and to apologize. But again, I have told you to notice that this character, I have told you to note that this character, that is the guide, is strict. And that is why he is asking Professor, Chineke Chiamaka, that is, why he was in a bar. And basically, whatever is happening in that chapter 2, okay, before we go to chapter 2, to the summary of chapter 2, I want you to notice that in page 20, there is some styles, like there is biblical allusion. Biblical allusion is a style there where he is remembering something that is in the Bible. He remembered the injunction to turn the other cheek. He swallowed his anger and apologized. So biblical allusion is a style that is there, and it is very evident. But now the character trait there of Chineke Chiamaka is that he is rational or reasonable, because he was about to get angry, but then he remembers whatever happens in the Bible and he decides to apologize. So in this case, you will say he is reasonable, but then this guide can be said to be strict or commanding or egocentric. Either of that is okay. So I want you to notice these things, that the second chapter, that is from page 16 to page 20, is a short chapter, but basically it is about phone calls. It is about phone calls. And the first phone call is from Pastor Chineke Chiamaka at 9 p.m. And I want you to notice that the conversation, all the phone calls end at 11 p.m. Therefore, this chapter 2 takes 2 hours. The phone calls took 2 hours. They called each other in 2 hours. And if you remember that, it is good because, in essence, this person is giving a lot of details. Because the guide wants to confirm that each of the path alpha 4 is okay, has looked at the contents of the briefcase, understands Agda's expectation of them, including how they should conduct themselves and how they should be conversing on a different phone. And then now, this is a question that you can be asked directly. Actually, you can be asked in an excerpt, according to your knowledge of the events before, what were the contents of the briefcases? What were the contents of the briefcases? And I said briefcases because every one of them has a briefcase, and it had a letter from Agda, a copy of Way Omega, a copy of Path Alpha. It had some leaflets, pamphlets, and brochures from Agda. It had a secure mobile phone that the guide would use to call them time and again. Again, we have seen that Pastor Chineke Chiamaka is not happy with the secrecy. The fact that the guide has concealed his identity angers Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, and it makes us see him as temperamental. He is forced to submission, and he is reminded that his role is to obey and not to argue. And then now we get to know the reason why the guide does not want to reveal his identity, and we have seen it is because the mission is at a delicate stage, and that is it. So by the end of this chapter, we can see that Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, and Pastor Chineke Chiamaka actually is a representation of all the others, has accepted the role of the subordinate, and that is it, as much as he was egocentric. I want you to ask yourself these questions as we move forward to the next chapters. Number one, you need to ask yourself, where in the rest of the text do we see that the guide is mistaken about the mobile phone being secure? Where do we see? And how does it tell us about modern ways of communication? And then, why do you think the guide wants the team to acquaint themselves with Path Alpha? And then also, I want you to ask yourself, what are some indicators that show that the guide wants to have complete control? Complete control. Those are some of the questions that I need you to ask yourself, and that is it. Any question up to that point? Any question up to that point you may ask? All right, I hope everything has sunk properly in us, because we really need to. And at the back of your mind, kama kuna kitu itakusaidia sasa, even knowing the book pages, it will change your attitude, or the chapter pages. For example, right now, anybody asking you anytime, you should be in a position to say that chapter 1, it is from page 1 to page 15. Chapter 2, it is from page 16 to page 20. And the mere fact that you will be knowing those pages offhand, it will actually help boost your confidence about the book, and that is it. Now we go to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the longest chapter. It is the longest chapter in the book because it runs from page 21 to page 45. So I want you to notice that chapter 3 is the longest chapter, and it is basically telling us about the story of Karanja Kimani. So you may even highlight it and give it the heading, the story of Karanja Kimani. If you are having a pencil, kindly write that on your set book, the story of Karanja Kimani. The story of Karanja Kimani. Or maybe somebody else would want to call it the background of Karanja Kimani. But I like calling it the story of Karanja Kimani. And part A now. Part A. I want us to call it Karanja Kimani's instant rice, or you can just say Karanja Kimani's rice. Na si rice ile ya mchele, ni rice ya kuinuka. Karanja Kimani's rice. And before I ask somebody to read, by the way, for the sake of those that have read chapter 2, please know we do not pronounce question marks. We do not pronounce question marks. When you are reading or speaking, you should not pronounce question marks. For example, you should not say, let me see, like in page 18, just for example, you should not say, is there anything else you like to ask from me? So you do not put that intonation that makes us hear the question mark. Instead, you should say, is there anything else you would like to ask me? Just the way you read the other sentences. And I want you to be at least very perfect with grammar and speaking, so that even when you go back to school, even your colleagues, students, and your teachers will see a difference even in the way you use language. So let us proceed. And I want to ask a gentleman now. A gentleman now. Stanley, do you have a book? Stanley, do you have a book? And if yes, I want you to read from page 21 to page 22. And that is what I have called Karaja Kimani's Rice, page 21 to 22. Stanley, go ahead.
Professor Kimani joined the University of Nairobi directly as a senior lecturer. Even before taking off, he was already flying. There was a reason. Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda had just dismantled their University of East Africa. Kenya's part of the university, now renamed the University of Nairobi, found itself with a vacancy it had to fill immediately in its Institute of Development Studies. Professor Kimani, who had just completed his studies at the University of Oxford, wrote from there to say he wanted to fill it. To ensure he came and filled it for sure, the University of Nairobi raised his entry point from that of a lecturer to that of a senior lecturer. He came. Only a month after his arrival, he launched a noisy debate in which he demanded that the University of Nairobi henceforth strive for relevance to the society rather than simply excellence of his work. It was not clear exactly what he meant by relevance to the society. However, a short 6 months later, he prevailed. The university's official motto became relevance to the society. After winning this war, he started another war which was even noisier. Now he wanted the university to be an agent of change, not a mere spectator of it. This was when people still thought this view was too radical and ridiculed it as simple-minded. So, not surprisingly, some of his colleagues, puzzled by his refusal to see that it was too radical, looked at him and then shook their heads in disbelief. Others baffled by his inability to see that it was simple-minded, did or said little, convinced that he would fall on his face before long and self-discard on his own without their help. He did not care. After all, his antics in the wars that he had started and won had also won him the heart of a campus beauty queen. Her name was Asia Omondi. He married her on a rainy but approving Saturday to claps of thunder and flashes of lightning. How marriage then accelerated academic success. A professorship soon followed. After that achievement, he felt fulfilled. His persona now was complete. Had anyone told him this happiness would one day end as it did, he would have laughed himself upside down.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay, Stanley. Just pause there. Actually, up to that bit, That is what we are calling Professor Karanja Kemani's instant rise. Instant rise. He rose. And in that bit, if such a bit is taken and given to you as an excerpt, then you would say the prevailing theme is theme of success. Success. Because Professor Karanja Kimani is a successful person. He is succeeding. He is getting a job. Here, the entry point is raised. Aside from that, he actually brings difference in the university to an extent that he changes the motto of the university. As if that is not enough, he gets himself a university beauty queen called Asia Omondi, and then he even marries her on a rainy but approving Saturday to claps of thunder and flashes of lightning. I think this one is showing that there is a lot of success and he rose instantly. Therefore, another theme that you might want to talk about aside from theme of success, then there is theme of education, because we get to see Professor Karanja Kimani coming out as a very educated character. Actually, he is too educated to an extent that he went to the University of Oxford. And those are some of the nitty-gritties that you need to understand from the book. He went to the University of Oxford, and now, because of being that educated, even the university does not want to lose him, and therefore it even raises his entry point. But then, as a character trait, we want to say that Karanja Kemani is controversial. Although now we usually say, sometimes when you are giving character traits of heroes in the book, remember the Path Alpha 4 and even the guide are heroes. Sometimes we focus on the positive traits, but even as such, we can say that he is controversial, because all the things that he is starting are things that the other people are seeing as controversial. But at the same time, it brings him as somebody who is determined. Professor Karanja Kimani is determined because he is focused on whatever he is doing and wants it to come out clear. Then there is a lot of exaggeration here in this bit. First of all, even before taking off, he was already flying. That is exaggeration. It is very evident. And then also there is exaggeration in page 22, where we are told if somebody told his happiness would one day end as it did, he would have laughed himself upside down. That is exaggeration. However, at the same time, we have personification, and those are some of the styles that you use in writing imaginative compositions, because we are told it was to claps of thunder and flashes of lightning. Claps, hapo kwa claps of thunder, then you would say that there is some personification. Although now, that is actually what we call whatever thunder does. Thunder claps. But even in that, it is personification. Unless somebody has a question, Kyoko, please proceed to the second bit. The bit that we will call, that is from page 22, from the page 22 to page 25, we will call it Karanja Kimani and Tuni. Actually, just call it Karanja Kimani and Tuni, or Karanja Kimani with Tuni. Karanja Kimani with Tuni about the state of the country. Karanja Kimani talks with Tuni about the state of the country. Proceed.
A global economic recession came. Africa was not spared. Jobs and incomes vanished. To get out of this crisis, Africa had to make changes. Changes? Changes, they were everywhere. Donors were the forces behind them. Tuni. Professor Kimani told his daughter. Tuni owed that name to Tunisia, believed to be her country of conception. Her father had gone there for a conference, her mother for the ride. What the donors did, Tuni, was to gang up on Africa. Professor Kimani said before he took a lick of his ice cream, he and his daughter were cooling off at some low-end restaurant in central Nairobi. Look here, you Africa, the donors said with one voice. You will get no more aid from us unless you change this, that, and the other. Understand? What did Africa do? Tony asked. She was deep into her second ice cream. Of course, Africa did as told, he said. Mind you, the donors did well to hang tough. Were it not for them, we would still be reciting foolish cliches about home growing our development strategies instead of importing foreign models. He took another lick of his ice cream and grimaced. Why, he wondered, had no whiz kid invented warm ice cream yet? You are not enjoying your ice cream, Dad, are you? Tony asked. It's too cold, he told her. Then he put it aside and continued. Sadly, late changes only catalyze excess. When at last they come, people go on a rampage to make up for time they feel they have lost. Nowhere was this rampage more evident than in parliaments, the very institutions that epitomized change. Nowhere was excess more revolting than in a coup that a parliament staged. The parliament staged a coup, yes, and they staged it successfully. Look, the year I started teaching, members of parliament, MPs, still earn less, I repeat, less, than professors did. Now each MP rakes in up to 100 times, repeat, 100 times the income a professor makes. It gets worse. Earnings by professors still consist of salaries which are taxable, whereas earnings by MPs are no longer deemed salaries and have long ceased to be taxable. Both the rise in income by MPs and the exemption of that income from taxation came with the coup. I thought the days of coups were over. Ha ha ha. Think again, Tony. Not only do we still have coups by soldiers, now we also have coups by lawmakers. These latter coups are even more lethal because they are illegal. Is it legal for lawmakers to raise their wages as they please? Yes, it is. Why is that? Because legal only means permitted by those who make the laws, and MPs make the laws that raise their income. Legal does not mean moral or even normal. It does
All right,
not.
all right, all right, all right, Kyoko, maybe you can just pause there. You see now, in essence, what you can say here is that there is lamentation or complaining by Chineke, by Karanja Kimani, sorry. There is complaining. And before we move on, I saw there is the word grimaced in page 23. To grimace means to grimace means just to it is a facial expression actually, to frown. So whenever you are asked, maybe you can be asked to give the meaning of the following word, or else you can even use the word in your composition. So to grimace is to have a contorted, basically it is, kwa Kiswahili tunasema kukunja sura tu. So when you are in pain, when you are in disappointed, when you are angry, you are disgusted, you grimace. And then now he's wondering why no who is kid. Just the meaning of who is means a quick person, a bright person. So who is means just remarkably skilled, or you could say that a person who is really knowledgeable. That is okay. Those are the two words that I thought I should explain their meaning to you. But again, now in page 22, we can see there is theme of colonialism, because we see it is donors that are telling the Africans what they are supposed to do. that is colonialism. Theme of colonialism is very evident there. And then again, we have the influence of foreigners. Influence of foreigners is seen there. There is colonialism basically, but again, the foreigners are dictating whatever is coming. And basically, if you go ahead and think deeply, then you can say that there is some foreshadow. And the foreshadow is a style. Foreshadow is a style. It comes at the end of that page 22. Of course, Africa did as told. Mind you, the donors did well to hang tough. Were it not for them, we'd still be reciting foolish cliches about home growing our own development strategies. That is a foreshadow. Our own development strategies instead of importing foreign models. And by the way, that is whatever happens with Way Omega and Path Alpha. Way Omega is our own development strategy. Path Alpha, it is a foreign model. It happens later. Therefore, you would say we have some kind of foreshadow because later. Remember, this one is happening. The whole of this chapter is coming as a flashback. Kwa sababu chapter 1 and 2 is happening way later after Professor Kimani left the university. So this chapter 3 is a flashback, sort of. It is telling us what happened before whatever is there in chapter 1 and chapter 2. It is giving us the history of Professor Karanja Kimani. And then another style that we see there is humor. Humor is seen where Karanja Kimani is wondering why no his kid had invented warm ice cream. And then now we are left wondering, if it were warm, would it be ice cream again? So in this case, then you would say there is humor. So again, there is the issue of poor leadership coming out clearly. Poor leadership, because we are told members of parliament have done a coup. First of all, that is irony. For members of parliament to do a coup, that is irony. But again, it shows that we have poor leaders or poor leadership. And that is it. Then, basically, here, another very important theme that some people would love to ignore, but it is there. It is coming out as theme of family relationship. We can see that there is a very good relationship between Tuni and her father. So there is theme of family relationship. Yes, Onchonga? Onchonga, you may go ahead and ask.
Having the reference from the part which you just said about the warm ice cream, I thought that should be an oxymoron instead of humor.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And remember, by the way, it's okay, Onchonga. A statement can have so many things in it. For example, it can be exaggeration. Sometimes it becomes humor and all those things. But now that oxymoron, remember, it is oxymoron, first of all. Thank you so much. It is oxymoron. But that oxymoron is coming out to be humorous. Actually, most oxymorons are humorous because you say things that are not as they were. But actually, the base or the basic style that we can call it is oxymoron. Thank you so much, Onchonga, for that input. Any other person that would want to say something? And remember, Onchonga, if you are giving oxymoron, you only pick the 3 words, warm ice cream. You do not give the whole statement because it will not be right. Oxymoron is where we have 2 words that mean the opposite of each other. So if you say use of oxymoron, you just highlight warm ice cream. But now if you say use of humor, you will say he was wondering why no his kid had invented warm ice cream yet. So please check on that. Onchonga, I hope I am clear on that.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other question, you may interject and ask, but meanwhile, we can just proceed. And I want to ask who has not read. Onchonga, have you read? If you have not read, please proceed from where Kyoko has stopped. I can see Amani has raised her hand. Amani?
We were advised not to use humor as a stylistic device.
All right, yeah, I understand why. I know why. Now, you know, and sometimes by there I also advise my students not to do that unless it is coming out very clearly. Because sometimes what you would call humor is not humor for me. And again, you see now, there were times when people were happy. Nowadays, for somebody to see humor, I think they have to struggle. I think the world has really changed. So sometimes whatever you see as humor, it may not be humor to somebody else. And actually, you should not be quick to identify humor as a style, because sometimes humor is not universal. That is true, Amani, by the way. That is true. Let us not take humor as a quick style that we want to pick. Instead, we try to fix it anywhere else. And actually, those ones are what we call last resort stylistic device, where you write that when you absolutely do not have anything else to write. Ni sawa, Amani?
Yes, thank you.
All right, sawa. Proceed now, Onchonga. I had asked you to proceed um, from where Kyoko stopped.
Page 24. It does not.
Yeah,
It does not
legal.
know.
Mhm.
It does not know to seal their power against reversal. All the MPs need to know to do now is to amend to the existing constitution by inserting in it one time clause. Since God himself cannot lower the wages MPs give to themselves, then neither can the MPs. Is that possible? Absolutely. After that has happened, the coup that brought these new wages about becomes irreversible. So you see, parliaments can be even worse than armies. Tony blinked uncomprehendingly. Worse than armies, she asked. She had her mother's eyes, wings of an imported butterfly, pure black in the middle, pure white at margins ringed with inch-long eyelashes. Whenever she blinked, her eyelashes fluttered as if they were about to fly her way. Dad, what do you mean? The eyelashes were fluttering. You see, Tony, soldiers could stage coups too. However, since they were not lawmakers, they couldn't legalize their actions. In other words, they only broke the law, nothing more. Now MPs do more, they break the law and legalize the breach as the new law. That's what I mean. But when elections come, the electorate votes them outright. Yes, just
Hapo
as
pause there, sorry. You could say there is poor leadership. Actually, we are being shown that the leaders we have are bad leaders. The leaders we have are bad leaders. And obviously now we have the theme of greed. These MPs are greedy. They are raising salaries for themselves. And they are doing this by breaking laws. So again, as a style, it is irony that lawmakers, the MPs who are lawmakers, are breaking the law. And then now, after breaking the law, they legislate or they make the broken laws to be the new laws. So in that case, it is ironical that the MPs are doing the opposite of what they are supposed to do, because MPs are supposed to make laws, but instead they are breaking the laws. Just proceed.
yes, just as when rains come, water washes off the spots of a leopard. Dad, I'm serious. The wings of the butterfly were fluttering madly. Then listen to me. Listen to me. New parliaments are just like the old. No, they are more like the old. They raise their salaries more than did the old. The long and short of it, Tony, is that nothing has really changed. Change in Africa has only replaced tyranny by presidents, which with tyranny by MPs. He paused to think, then he resumed. Come to think of it, the French have always had it right. They say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Actually, we have had it right all along as well. We say msitu mpya nyani wale wale. New forests, same old monkeys, asked Tony. Correct. Dad, have you considered going into politics? Me going into politics? No. Politics isn't for me. Teaching is.
Pause there. Pause there. Pause there. So up to that bit we have called it the discussion between Karanja Kimani and Tuni about the state of the country. And then now we have noticed that the state of the country is that we have poor leaders, and therefore poor leadership is the order of the day. But then I want you to notice how Professor Karanja Kimani is complaining about members of parliament, and then later you see what a member of parliament makes him go through. So I want you to notice that Professor Karanja Kimani really had a problem with members of parliament, and there is some sort of foreshadow basically, because whatever thing is happening here is that he is complaining about members of parliament, and later he becomes a total victim of a member of parliament. Basically, it comes out as bad leadership, ideally. And then now we have metaphor as a theme. We didn't highlight it in page 24, where we are told she had her mother's eyes, wings of an imported butterfly. So that is metaphorical. The eyes are directly compared to the wings of an imported butterfly. And I think to that extent, you can say also that we have hyperbole. We have a little bit of exaggeration because we are told they are pure black in the middle, pure white in the margins, rings with inch-long eyelashes, inch-long. That is obviously exaggeration. I don't know whether a natural person can have a whole inch-long eyelashes. Hata zile za kufixiwa zikuwagi zimefika 1 inch. Therefore, that is exaggeration. Then again, you would say that Professor Karanja Kimani is reasonable. Actually, whatever he is saying are things that are reasonable. At the same time, you can say he is committed. He is committed to teaching, actually, and that is why he tells the daughter that he cannot go to teaching. Basically, also, you may say he is philosophical. Philosophical means somebody looks at things in a different eye. And for him, he is even coming up with a new thing. New forest, same old monkeys. Basically, new forest, same old monkeys. That is a metaphor, because a forest is not the forest we are talking about. The monkeys are not the monkeys that we are talking about. But again, it brings out Professor Karanja Kimani as philosophical. And then in Musitu Mpya, nyani wale wale, you can call it as use of local dialect, and it will work out well with you. And then there is irony, or basically you can even decide to call it sarcasm. Remember, irony has 3 aspects, but now this one we can call it sarcasm. He says, yes, just as when rains come, water washes off the spots of the leopard. That is sarcasm. He's just being sarcastic to show that these people cannot change. Now we can read the next bit, that is from page 25. And this part now, we will call it, I would wish that we call it Tunis security lessons, or Tunis lessons about security. Tunis lessons about security. And basically now, it is a part of a failed government, such that now people want to look for personal security or to put personal security measures. I would wish to ask Amani. Amani, please proceed from there. Amani, ulikuwa umesoma tena? Amani, had you read again? If you had not read, please go ahead, read that bit from page 25.
Okay. Guarding had come of age in Kenya. No longer was it the marginal activity it once had been. It had matured into fully fledged industry. Night did not stop as just home protection. It covered other areas as well. In the transport area, it meant vehicles full of touch me not anti-theft gadgetry. In the tourism sector, it meant tour operators warning foreigners against showing valuables in public. In the workplace, it meant seminars of personal safety and so on. Professor Kimani viewed this growth in guarding with disapproval, to which he added contempt. He considered it a symptom of failure by the state to ensure the safety of its citizens. His mother held a more practical view. Mom and Dad, do you want to hear some clever things I did today? She asked her parents breezily at supper one evening. I attended a seminar on personal safety. That's what I did. Professor Kimani snorted. You call that clever? He helped himself to more food. Truly, safety isn't a clever thing we do by attending seminars. It's a necessity the state should provide us. And if it can't, he did not answer. She waited. Still no reply came. Finally, Asia answered. Then safety becomes a private arrangement that we have to make up for ourselves. Sia, Professor Kimani, preferred this form of his wife's name to its full version of Asia. Sia, all that any private arrangement will do is to exempt the state from even trying to render the services that our taxes oblige it to give us. Mother and daughter looked at each other knowingly. How often had they heard him express that view? Yet he did not ignore reality at the expense of prosperity. People who don't like poverty and want prosperity temper with views with reality. Their views with reality. He did not. Look at each other all you want, he told his wife and his daughter. Next, you'll be saying you want to hire your own police and army. What would remain for the state to do? Whatever you say, Dad, Tony said with a sigh. But before you change the world and get it to render the services our taxes oblige it to give us, some of us intend to keep on taking steps that ensure our personal safety, such as precautions against the male violence. Over 2/3 of women in this country witness it on other women or on themselves. I'm not joking, Dad. That is what the seminar instructor said. Tuni turned to her mother. Mom, as a woman, you should be showing me just a little more interest here. I am, Tuni. Asia sat up to show more of it. Go on, Tuni, please. She said there are 3 reasons why we women are easy prey. Asia knitted her brow into a question. Yes, ma'am. The seminar instructor was a woman. The first reason, she said, is lack of awareness of where we are. As women, we should always be keenly aware of where we are and of what is going on around us. The second reason is a look of weakness and helplessness. Instead of looking weak and helpless, we should appear stronger and in control. The third reason is a temptation to stray. We should never walk into bad neighborhoods, walk alone in alleys, or take stairs when there are elevators. Professor Kimani leaned back in his chair. Another slow day at the office, huh, Tuni? He sneered. Surely you knew all of that already. She glowered at him. Dad, this isn't about knowing. No, it is about doing. It is about women protecting themselves themselves against criminals, male criminals, Dad. She made this remark sound as if her father, another male, might be a criminal. Asia touched her gently in a calming gesture. Don't mind your father, Tony. Now, what else did the instructor teach you? You are not going to like it, Mom. Oh, why won't I? Because it's what you do, and yet you know you should not do it. After completing an errand, shopping or whatever, women like to get into their cars and say the instructor just to sit there for a while. Don't deny it, Mom. You do it too. No, I don't. Yes, you do. I do not. Never do it, Mom. A predator could be watching you. So the moment you get into your car, lock all your doors and drive off at once. What if a predator has a gun and has cornered you before you get in? Asia's arm flew up in panically surrender. Tuni, stop it. The predator has a gun. Those arms rose higher. Then you comply, Tuni. You do as he says. Wrong. Listen to me, Tuni. I am your mother. You comply. Mother? Comply, I said. Mom, our instructor explained why it makes sense to run away instead. I don't care what your stupid instructor said. All right, Mom. Now suppose you're driving with a predator seated next to you. Asia cringed. Tuni.
Okay, just pause there kindly. Pause there kindly.
Okay.
Now, in the half of page 25, page 26 and 27, we are having one major theme, the theme of insecurity. Insecurity is coming out clearly here. Insecurity. But now, along this insecurity, we will talk about it as government failure. Government failure. Government failure or poor governance, such that the government has failed to offer security to an extent that there is insecurity. Remember, I've said insecurity is a theme. And now people are looking at ways to 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 provide themselves with personal security, and that is why there is personal safety measures as far as it is concerned. But again, here there is a theme that is actually clear, and that is the theme of family relationship. And this relationship between the family is coming out clear. We get to know that Tuni has a good relationship with the mother and the father. And Professor Karanja Kimani is enjoying a good family. There is a reason why the writer has decided to show us the inside of Professor Karanja's Kimani family. Because when it falls apart, we will be able to refer to how it was a good family. But again, here we get to see that Tuni is coming out as an intelligent daughter, and she is reasonable. And that is why she decided to go for safety measures, because she has managed to notice that the government is unable to provide security. And therefore, in that case, then she is the one who is supposed to provide it for herself. Obviously, there are some styles like rhetorical questions that have come out very clearly there, like in page 26. Mother and daughter looked at each other knowingly. How often had they heard him express that view? Yet it did not ignore reality and all that. Then again, here, there is the theme of gender violence. But the way it has been brought out, it is clear that it is violence against women. So instead of even calling it gender violence, we will call it violence against women. Because Tuni is saying 2/3 of women in this country witness male violence. Actually, it is called male violence. Violence against women is coming out here clearly. And somehow, Professor Karanja Kimani is portrayed as someone who is actually out of place in that discussion, because at one given time, Tuni speaks as if her father is a male criminal. So the theme of violence against women is coming out very, very clearly. But again, now it comes out that Asia Omondi is timid, or maybe you can just say she is cowardly, and you can see how it happens when she is told about male violence. Actually, she gets to panic and says that she does not want to hear it. But Tuni is coming out as a person who is brave, and that we'll see when we read later in the same chapter. We will see the irony of this page 28 and how Tuni is looking for security so that she can be in a position to protect herself. Please proceed. Kindly proceed. Go on with reading. Brian, who was reading? Brian? Chepngeno, how are you? Amani, please continue reading. Amani, please unmute. All right. Looks like Amani has gone. Levi, please unmute and read from where Amani has stopped.
Nasir cringed. Tony, I'm not sure I want to hear this. Crash the car. What? Tony, are you out of your mind? Crash it hard. This will immobilize the predator with surprise and allow you to escape. But our family only has that dying old Toyota. Yes, crash it. Tony turned back to her father. By the way, Dad, is there any chance of me using the car tomorrow? He winced. The question might as well have been that an enemy had shot into his face to mock him. He fumbled for an excuse, but told the truth instead. Our car is down again, Tony, he said limply. I'll have it fixed soon as I get my next salary. Asia was looking at him. Once she had seen him as a young man going places. Now only saw an old man going nowhere. His very car had been a metaphor about him. It was going nowhere as well. Later that evening, she offered him an idea. Carranza, leave the university and go to greener pastures. Somewhere. In the wound this idea opened on him, she rubbed salt with a comparison. Newborn left the university and went to greener pastures somewhere. Now look, he's an MP with 4 cars. This hurt. Therefore, going to Parliament, Newborn Olomo, a rowdy fellow from a minor tribe without roads or school, has been a junior colleague of Professor Kimani at the university. Yes, this hurt. So why did Professor Kimani not leave as well? Because he was born a teacher? He always told us here. And so a teacher, he will die. Losers such as Olomo swam in money, he would explain, only because even failed states have a few mansions. Since losers like to reward fellow losers, losers invariably end up occupying some of those mansions. Still, losers they all were and always will be. First,
All right. Just pause there. Just pause. So basically, you would see the resentment that Asia had. We are able to see that Omondi has some resentment against, is contemptuous against Karanja Kimani. She actually thinks of him as a failure. And she thinks actually she is comparing him to newborn Walomu.